Increasing nitrogen use efficiency. It's a topic we've covered before, and we're going to go more in depth on the economics and the environmental aspect of it in this episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
It's XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve podcast, cutting your learning curve and improving your farming operation every week. This episode of the Cutting the Curve podcast is brought to you by BASF, creating innovation to help farmers do the biggest job on earth. And now, let's get ready to learn with your host, Damian Mason.
Hey there, welcome to another fantastic episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve. We've been talking about nitrogen, and I'll tell you why. Because A, it's a big topic. Because B, you're going to be facing regulation in your farming operation no matter where you live. It's not just a certain type of state. It's going to be all of agriculture because nitrogens and nitrates are, nitrogen over-application is causing nitrates in the water supply. Kelly Garrett's here. He's in northwest Iowa. Guess what's happening in central Iowa? The Raccoon River that runs through Des Moines is now being a hot button. So absolute lightning flash right now because of environmental causes saying there is a nitrate problem in this watershed and agriculture is to blame. So how can you apply less nitrogen without sacrificing yield and actually make your nitrogen more efficient? You can use an array of products, one of which is called N-Finity from our friends at Agricen. So we've got Scott Lay on here along with Kelly Garrett to talk about this very topic. Kelly, you have been, before we push the record button, to Scott's description, very aggressive about reducing nitrogen. And by the way, you found something that a lot of farmers don't want to admit. Everything Iowa State University told you about 1.1 pounds per bushel of corn, completely bunk. You can get by with half of that, but farmers are afraid to do so.
Yes, I would tell you, though, I think Iowa State is right. It takes 1.1 or 1.2 pounds to raise corn, but it doesn't all have to be synthetic. Start to measure what comes out of your soil. We use what we call a rapid soil test, and there's more than enough nitrogen in the soil to actually raise the whole crop, but the nitrogen doesn't really start coming out of the soil for us and being mineralized until it warms up. So you get to the middle of June or July, that biological system gets to cranking and provides us with more than enough nitrogen. And so this idea that we need to spoon feed our nitrogen or split apply it is really not a great concept for us. The last thing I need in July is more nitrogen. I need more micronutrients and things like that. And I'm trying to find the bottom of the nitrogen. My grower standard practice is 80 pounds in a high yield area. This year I have some 40-pound nitrogen out.
Scott, I feel like we talk about this a fair amount, and then it's kind of like, all right, tune into Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey has a daily show about finance. You know what he generally always says? Pay off your debt, make more money, and spend less than you earn. And you're like, I swear to God, the last time I heard him back in September, that's what he said. Maybe this is a message just like spend less than you earn that needs to be repeated on a daily basis. Nitrogen is over-applied, and it has an economic issue to it and has an environmental issue to it. And I'm telling my agricultural people, if you think regulation is not coming, think again. There's a reason companies like yours have come up with products like N-Finity. It's real.
It is real, Damian, but I think go back to something Kelly mentioned, and he's exactly right. If you went to any farmer that's raising corn, soybeans, wheat, and you ask them to voluntarily reduce their amount of applied synthetic nitrogen, whether it's anhydrous, UAN, urea, or some combination thereof, by 30, 40 pounds, that guy's going to hit the brakes and say, hold on a second. For my whole career, I've been taught by the universities and through my own experience that I need X number of pounds, about a pound per bushel. So it's a bit of asking a guy to take a leap of faith to voluntarily reduce the amount of applied synthetic nitrogen and have confidence that this widget, our widget is N-Finity, will provide enough nitrogen to more than offset that reduction so we can feed the plant and increase yields.
So we talked about before we hit the record button about the economics. I think we can go on about the agronomics, but the person that's skeptical, let's just go straight into the economics. You guys both ran some numbers because I said, is this an economic argument or an environmental argument? Not argument, but reasoning. And so let's go with the economics because everybody in agriculture right now is saying, last thing I can do is get too experimental and cost myself yield. Yeah, I'm only selling $3.93 bushels of corn, but by God, I need every one of those $3.93 bushels of corn because, it's cost me a lot of money to put this crop out. So go to the economics of it first. straight to it. You said in your notes that I can probably take 30 pounds off of my applied nitrogen.
That is correct. And again, let's go back to what is N-Finity. It's applied, can be applied in a soil concentrated fashion. In furrow, 2x2 at planting, through that side dress or wide drop type application. We have some folks that don't run liquid starter where they're using liquid strip fresheners in the spring prior to planting. So those are the methods by which it can be applied. Let's start there. The economics then. Economics.
So by the way, your point is it all goes out in the first half of the crop's life.
That's correct.
And it also, the old method of putting all the nitrogen out, early, then this meets that need because the plant's life, et cetera, et cetera. So, and the other thing I think you're pointing out is this N-Finity product that you have goes right along with what we were going to do anyhow. We were going to be planting. We were going to do in furrow or 2x2 or wide drop or side dress.
Yeah, it doesn't create another trip across the field. The handling flexibility or ease of application, which I think Kelly could speak to. We have trials with this year with Kevin Matthews and Chad Henderson, Matt Miles down in Arkansas, and Kelly, where while it's commercially available, we want local evidence from the XtremeAg group to validate what we've been seeing across the U.S. But again, Kelly talked about, particularly in his loess soils of western Iowa, there's an ample organic matter of which there's a lot of mineral or organic nitrogen available. We've got to find a way to convert that. One of the things that N-Finity does, again, it's 3 modes of action versus most of the other products, which aren't bad, focus on 1 mode of action. So we think those 3 modes of action, mineralizing more organic nitrogen, affixing atmospheric nitrogen, which a lot of other products do, and then recruiting and fixing bacteria in the soil to get more into that plant, that's pretty darn important.
Talk about the less soils, the less hills. And if you're just tuning into this for the first time, maybe you're not aware, Kelly farms 40% slopes in western Iowa. And the thing is, for 1,000 years, after the glaciers retreated, the wind swept up the silt and blew it over across the Missouri River to where he is. Never once has he apologized to the people of Nebraska for stealing their soil. But for 1,000 years, that's what happened. So there are hills of literally topsoil after the glaciers retreated that blew from the plain states over and landed where they farm. Am I right?
You're correct. It's pretty deep.
And that's how it got there. Anyway, the economics.
Economics.
You like to point out, Kelly, that farmers love to talk about big yields and they love to go to these field days and carry on about how many bushels, et cetera, et cetera. We like to make money. We like to be profitable. So you've got a trial going on right here. It looks like these economics are going to work very well.
Well, in our trial, we side dressed the nitrogen on, which is unusual for us. But I wanted to do that because we didn't get all the anhydrous put on last fall. I was worried about getting all the anhydrous on the spring. And so we side dressed some nitrogen when the corn was, 2 or 3 leaf. And all we put on was 30 gallons of 28005. And Scott's N-Finity trial, Agricen's N-Finity trial is in there. And I was telling Scott before we recorded, I didn't even want to tell him about it because it looks so good. Now, we've had a great year with rain and things like that, but holy cow, that corn looks tremendous. And you're talking what, 86 pounds of nitrogen, 85 pounds of nitrogen on there. That's it. That's across the whole field. And with our variable rate on anhydrous, we put on 80 pounds in a high yield area, 160 pounds in a low yield area because of what's being mineralized out of the soil. And we've had trials before where we've dialed it all the way back to 60 pounds. I've had 60 through 240 pounds of anhydrous in the fall of 23, and everything yielded within 5 bushels of each other. I mean, the idea that we can reduce a little bit, we cut from 240 to 60. We reduced it down to 25% of the nitrogen. We didn't reduce 25%, we reduced 75%, yields within 5 bushel of each other. And so I constantly am wanting to do trials with products like N-Finity and like that to see where I can get to the bottom. Because, like you asked, Damian, is it an economic play? Well, if a guy reduces 30 pounds, if a grower reduces 30 pounds and puts in N-Finity, he's going to save $5 or $6 an acre, which I agree is not substantial. But your soil health is going to improve. Your plant health is going to improve. what if you reduce that nitrogen and save the $5 or $6, but then you don't need a passive fungicide? And like that's a big deal this year with $4 corn and all the disease that's out there. So is it an economic play? If you go down this path of soil health and plant health and things like that, there is a big economic play here. And soil health and a balanced plant, balanced nutrition. I talk a lot about sap samples. There's a huge economic play here.
Scott, I want to get into then if you have any more wrap up on the economics. Do you have any more wrap up on the economics? What's when you have to go out and talk to a producer, they're reluctant, and there's going to be people that'll never change because Grandpa put out 1.1 pounds of nitrogen. They're never going to change. Then there's the middle of the road that are changeable, and there's the people that are early adopters. So right now you're probably early adopters getting into more of the middle of the road. People are like, yeah, you know what? You're right about the environmental aspect, and regulation is coming. I'm going to get ahead of this. So you're probably talking to middle of the road, not the front end early adopter types. What do you tell them?
Well, and again, this is the first year it's commercially available, and a lot of those early adopters are utilizing N-Finity. What we talk about, try not to tell them anything, but allow everyone to arrive at their own conclusions. To build on the math Kelly laid out, if a producer were to reduce their applied nitrogen by 30 pounds, again, I don't wish higher price, $775 a ton anhydrous on anyone, but the fact of the matter is it's here. The only good news with that is it requires less of a reduction to offset the cost of N-Finity. So Kelly laid out a 30-pound reduction in synthetic nitrogen is about a $5 an acre savings once you put the N-Finity in at $16 to $18. Now, of the work we've done in past years, with that level of reduction, a 30-pound reduction, we're averaging a 4 to 5 bushel yield increase. So $5 savings, and again, obviously it's only $4 corn today, but that's a $15 to $20 an acre increase in yield response. But those are good economics. As Kelly indicated, if you couple those positive economics with increasing soil microbial biomass, your N-fixers, creating better biology in the soil, that's a payoff that you will enjoy not just in 1 year, but over time as well.
Got it. And we'll get into the agronomics next, but I know we got some slides we're going to show. If you're listening to this, that's great. You know what? We release all of our Cutting the Curves as videos. You can check them out at XtremeAg.farm or on our YouTube channel. We'd love for you to subscribe. Just go to YouTube, type in XtremeAg, just like we spelled without the E on the front of it, and hit subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. We're putting more and more stuff out there, including our new hit show, The Granary. One of these days, we hope to get Scott Lay from Agricen to be in the granary, if he's so willing to lower his standards to come to a on-farm tavern in Indiana as an I-State exclusive elitist like he is. Anyway, we'll see about that. Anyway, check out all that stuff. But also, we're going to be putting some pictures, some images up here so you can see some actual samples. Our producer Will's going to drop these in so you can see actual corn side-by-sides, and then also some charts to talk about the sap analysis of this. Before we go any further, I want to remind you about our friends over at Superior Grain Bins. Kelly and I were just in their booth at the Farm Progress Show yesterday. And Superior Grain Bins has some cool stuff that you should do if you want to continue to let your operation grow. Superior Grain Equipment's grain storage systems are built to make your job easier and help your grain reach its full potential. From gentle mix flow dryers to durable storage, get the flexibility to market your grain on your time. Visit with the experts from Superior Grain online at superiorbins.com, and they have people that can help you and answer all your questions. We talked a lot about the economics of grain bin and grain dryers yesterday, and it was a very good session. So anyway, go check it out. Go to superiorbins.com. Okay, the agronomics. You showed those images. You sent me those slides. What am I looking at? Because you say there's 3 modes of action. And I want to ask Kelly first, what's the most important thing when he looks at it? And he'll admit that he's got agronomists on staff that are much more agronomically averse than him. But what do you tell him? What do you think this looks like, Kelly, from the agronomic standpoint?
I think it looks like the very solid progressive agronomics. The economic play of that should be all about the yield gain. And I would tell a grower, whatever you can save by cutting back your nitrogen, I would reallocate that to a micronutrient spend. And you're going to even double up on that economic play in plant health and yield gain. And so the agronomics here are that we're balancing the plant. I don't know what else needs to be said, I guess. We're balancing the plant, and in our operation and working with integrated ag and calibrated agronomy, we just continue down that path of nutrient density, minerally balance the plants, and the amount of nitrogen being mineralized in the soil, especially like you call it a elitist eye state, is incredibly overwhelming. More than enough nitrogen. When we went to Matt Miles and we had the challenge plots there, Matt and I produced 240 bushel corn, both of us, but I did it $50 less, and it's because I reduced the nitrogen. Continuing to use products like this and finding how low I can go on the nitrogen is the agronomic play that I want to have. What you're seeing there in the slides is better root mass, better plant growth. It's a long ways. It's a long way from yield. We'll have to come up with the yield at the end here, of course, with the slides Scott's got, but the SAP analysis backs up what you're seeing in the picture of the plants.
3 modes of action: fix, recruit, liberate. You had that in some notes. What are you talking about?
Well, again, soil biology is complex. There are a lot of moving parts, as Kelly can attest to. Think of them as levers. And again, there are a number of other nitrogen efficiency products out there which do a great job, but they're solely focused on one of those levers. That's largely a fixing atmospheric nitrogen.
Yep.
We believe that is a part of the equation. But that in and of itself doesn't define nitrogen use efficiency. In addition to fixating atmospheric nitrogen, is, for those of us in the I states or where we enjoy organic matters of 3% or greater, there are tremendous pools of organic nitrogen in the soil. That's nitrogen that no one has to write a check for because it's there. The challenge becomes, how do you access those pools of nitrogen, get them in a plant available in organic form? N-Finity does that. The last part, which, again, if you talk to a Kevin Matthews or Chad Henderson or Matt Miles in those lower organic matter environments, recruiting those native N-fixing microbes that are in the soil, pulling those into the plant to supply more natural nitrogen, that's a big lever to pull that we believe will contribute to yield. So again, if we have 3 modes of action, think of a herbicide. If we're trying to attack or control tall water hemp, more modes of action are more consistent over a wider range of circumstances. The same holds true with nitrogen. 3 modes of action will win on more growing environments across more years, regardless of the crop.
Then speaking of the utilization of a product like yours, there's no compatibility issues. I put this in the front half of my season. As you said, it's either in furrow, 2x2, wide drop, or side dressing. No issues. There's no restrictions. No, what I can use it with, right?
That's correct, and it's important. We recognize we work with farmers all over the United States, and set aside the agronomy for a moment, and they say without a doubt, or without exception rather, give me something that I don't have to make an extra trip for, and also give me something that I can employ or utilize with such crazy things like liquid fungicides, liquid fertilizers, and crop protection products. By utilizing metabolites, in N-Finity, it allows us to do that without special storage or handling restrictions.
How much of this stuff am I using? Roughly?
How much in terms of a rate? One quart per acre.
Okay, so we're not talking about it's not a lot of heavy lifting. All right, other stuff you got going on. We're talking about Kelly's thing. Kelly, do you see it? Because you've got this going on cotton with Matt Miles, and you've got it going on what other crops this year?
It's with corn, I believe. Is it with beans with Kevin? I can't. I've got it on corn.
Yeah,
and I know
corn at Kelly's, cotton in Arkansas. What else?
Yeah, and we have a side dress application with Johnny in Tennessee, Johnny Verell.
Yep.
Chad Henderson, also a side dress application, corn in Alabama. Kevin, I believe, has corn. I know he has corn in furrow. He may have in furrow on soybeans as well.
Do I need to use this once, or am I using it more than once? Do I use this twice? Is there a reason? Would I get more benefit if I put this at time of planting and then also when I side dress?
It's a great question, Damian. And the answer is we have a number of trials this year where we're trying to narrow down that answer.
So in other words, if using it one time allows me to cut 20 to 30 pounds, can I cut 50 to 60 pounds by using this twice? And then I get that $5 savings twice, which is $10, which in an environment like this, $10 might be half of what I make per acre.
Again, we're trying to narrow that down. We know we're very confident in terms of the results we get with the at planting in furrow 2x2 timing. We have a growing amount of data with that liquid side dress UAN wide drop type application. We're figuring out now does 1 + 1 equal something greater than 2?
Understood. Kelly, who needs this? Everybody? Or are there people that this,
Everybody-
because I think
Yeah.
it's incumbent upon us to, we're honest here at Extreme Ag. We're doing the trials. You're trying the stuff out. You've openly admitted what stuff you've done that was a flop and what stuff was an absolute A plus. Is there somebody? The easy answer, of course, is I'm in a place with low CE soils and I don't have that. That's always the easy answer. I've got to put out more nitrogen because I don't have the type of ground Kelly has. We've heard that before. Is there any truth to that? Who needs this? Does everybody need it?
Right. Well, that's back to Scott's 3-lever comment. You know what I mean? Like where I'm at with the organic matter I have and things like that relative to where Matt and Chad are, they're pulling a different lever. There's 3 levers here and they're pulling a different lever. And what I would say is everybody that's listening or watching, just try. Just try, and I think you're going to be amazed. The way that my farming operation has changed, the challenge plots we've had at Matt's, the different things Chad and Johnny are doing, reduce your nitrogen, see how low you can get it, and reallocate that spend into micronutrients and look at your ROI go up. We've not failed in that yet. What we have not figured out is how low can we go. And when we reduce the nitrogen, and like I believe that I can reduce the nitrogen and use a product like N-Finity, and I can reduce more because of the pools of organic nitrogen that are there and things like that. Again, I'm going to pull a different lever than Matt and Chad, but everybody just try. Just give it a shot and reduce the nitrogen, try, reallocate the savings to there, and your ROI, the economic play here, is going to be the yield benefit and the plant health benefit. I'm not asking you to save the nitrogen spend dollars. I'm asking you to reallocate that into a micro pack.
Scott, do you see everybody? Okay, you get around, you cover a lot of ground. Products like this, N-Finity, I think their time is here. The technology is there. Do you agree that we're going to face a regulatory environment very soon that it becomes a requirement that you use something like this?
Gee whiz. Do I see that? I think we're getting closer to that as time evolves. I hope that it does not come about or manifest itself in the way of a mandate of how many pounds of N can be applied. But, you referenced the Raccoon River area, you go to the Delmarva, the Chesapeake.
Or Temple Farms.
Watershed, Lake Erie in northern Ohio. There's some local instances where that's the case. I think the other part, beyond whether that will happen, I'm not here to speculate. It would appear we're trending that direction. I'll leave it at that. But what the other part that Kelly's getting more involved in by the day is not mandating reductions in synthetic nitrogen applied, but as the market or opportunity evolves of carbon credits, where farmers can voluntarily reduce amounts of synthetic fertilizers, not just nitrogen, and be compensated for doing so. I think that's the other dimension that I have a higher level of confidence that will evolve in the next 1 to 3 years, frankly, than governmental mandates, whether the state or federal level, that would legislate amounts of nitrogen applied. And as that evolves, products like N-Finity and other similar technologies, they become mainstream in a hurry in trying to find ways to supplement that nitrogen naturally that's no longer being applied in a synthetic form.
Using a product like N-Finity and reducing your nitrogen will definitely make your nutrient use efficiency go up in a carbon credit market. If there's going to be growers that don't want to be involved in that, but all of a sudden now with the big beautiful bill, 45Z has a lot of legs, and reducing this nitrogen will reduce your CI score. There's an economic play there that we haven't even talked about.
Yeah, meaning you're grabbing money from this beyond just the savings on nitrogen or beyond just the yield bump. Now it's
yes, and if you want to put some economics behind that, every point you lower your CI score is worth about 5.5 cents per bushel. 5.5 cents times 200 bushel corn is $11 an acre.
Right. So there's another $11, and we can talk about the 45Z in another episode, and we've already kind of covered that. We'll do it more. The point is, there's money to be made here, and this is where the future is going. So hop on the train now, I guess, is the short answer, and start experimenting with products like N-Finity.
I hope that regulation doesn't come, but I don't know why a grower wouldn't want to try this just because of the economic benefits on their own farm anyway.
Yeah, and it ties into also your thing about if you're reducing applied synthetics and the soil improves. Soil then becomes a more
and that doesn't happen overnight. But the way that our soil looks now, versus what it did 2 or 3 years ago. We picked up 1,800 acres this spring and enlarged. We had an opportunity to enlarge the farm. We had a customer come down that wants to work with integrated ag and calibrated agronomy, and he looked at the soil that we've been farming for 20 years, and he looked at the soil on the new farm, and he says he can see the difference. That really made my day. He's become a good friend of mine. His name's Jerry, large farmer in Northwest Iowa. And he's like, Kelly, I can see the difference in the soil on the ground you've been farming and the ground you picked up. That says it all right there.
Yeah, this is part of the evolution. Scott, last word.
Last word, I think I'd echo what Kelly said. Is this for everyone? Perhaps not. But I think it is a technology that has merit, that if incorporated in a guy's operation will yield a consistent response in terms of return on investment. And it's worthy of consideration, particularly given today's farm gate economics, which aren't terribly favorable, but that's how we evolve and create better nitrogen use efficiency in the interest of increasing ROI.
Product's called N-Finity. The company's called Agricen. If you want to learn more about this, where do they go?
Lovelandproducts.com. Obviously, this product is available through XtremeAg Solutions retail centers across the United States, and the local nutrient sales rep would be happy to have a conversation about N-Finity.
His name's Scott Lay. He's joined by Kelly Garrett, XtremeAg founder, and me, Damian Mason. If you liked what you heard, share it with somebody that can benefit from it. This absolutely is the future. We're not using scare tactics here. There is going to be a compelling reason, economic, environmental, possibly regulatory, that you are going to be reducing your nitrogen. But you know what? You don't have to suffer because we have technology to stave off yield loss. Anyway, share this with somebody that can benefit from it. Check out all of our great stuff, including our show, The Grain Rate, XtremeAg.farm. Also, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't cost nothing. We'd love to have you there. Also, if you want to take your learning to the next level, become an XtremeAg member. It's only $750 a year, and you get in-depth responses from our agronomic professionals. When you have a question, you'll go a little deeper with. You also get special offers from some of our business partners, and you get the data at the year end from trials like Kelly's doing with this product right here, all for just $750 a year. Very, very cheap price for what you're going to get. Till next time, thanks for being here. I'm Damian Mason with XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
That's a wrap for this episode of Cutting the Curve. Make sure to check out XtremeAg.farm for more great content to help you squeeze more profit out of your farming operation. This episode of the Cutting the Curve podcast is brought to you by BASF, creating innovation to help farmers do the biggest job on earth.